Hello everyone, so today I'm going to be doing another reading vlog. In this type of video, I read the new releases of series that I've been reading, let you know if I'm still on the fence about some of them, if I'm planning on dropping, or definitely am still interested in other series. And usually I save volume 1s for their own video, but I feel like I won't have quite as many volume 1s to talk about in the next few months, so I've decided to just talk about a few new series that have come out recently that I really want to read, namely these two. I have Full Night Volume 1 and Gannibal Volume 1. I'm pretty confident I will enjoy both of these. They are definitely both my thing. Usually I try to talk about between 10 and 12 volumes in these videos, so I have some new releases that I want to read and let you know what my thoughts are on them. My Name is Shingo Volume 2. This volume is a lot bigger than the first one. Then I have just the highest quality literature, Night of the Living Cat, Volume 4. There are not many series that bring me as much joy as this one does, so definitely looking forward to this volume. And then I have some more series that I don't love quite as much, but I have been enjoying. And Medalist, this volume is going to decide if I continue to buy the volumes physically or if I just read it on the Manga app. I think I have through Volume 8 digitally through a Humble Bundle, so this one is going to decide the fate of this series. And then God Bless the Mistaken Volume 2. I enjoyed the first volume. It wasn't my favorite thing in the world, but I am interested in continuing, and this is just a short series, so I'll probably end up reading the entire thing anyway, but I do want to talk about my thoughts on this one. I also have some more volumes that are on their way to me, so I will include those on the list when I get them. But anyway, I will be back to update you when I have read some of these and I have some thoughts to share. I've never tried the sitting on the floor angle before, so let's try this out so I can break things up. First of all, I've read some things. I definitely was most interested in starting these, so I have now read these. I read them during the reading sprints that we did. We always have a lot of fun on there, and this time I read some great things. That doesn't always happen, but this time it did. So Full Night, this is set 300 years in the future. In this time, the world has been covered in smoke pretty much, so it's basically endless night. That's where the title comes from, Full Night. It's winter all the time, it's dark, it's gloomy, and because of this, it is very, very difficult for plants to grow, which means that we don't really have enough oxygen for people to live. So in order to fix that, people who are terminally ill can volunteer to basically host a plant, and this plant will basically slowly take over their body until they die, and then their new plant body provides oxygen for other people. This process is called transfloration, by the way. We follow this guy right here. He, like many people in this world, needs some money, and he needs it because his mom needs medication or she will become very violent. I don't want to say too much more than that because I feel like this one definitely, if you go into it not knowing too much, you will probably enjoy it more. I mean, if you know more about it, it's fine. But I had a fantastic time with this volume. It's really creepy. I love body horror, and anytime a person and plants kind of merge together, I don't know why. It's really interesting, kind of this nature versus humanity thing. But the way this manga opens up with this guy as a kid and his friend, they're just walking through the streets, and all around them are just bodies that have been taken over by plants and they look like plants, but they also look like people. And it's just really creepy. Here's one of the very first images you see. I love that. It's so creepy. There are some scenes with his mom that are quite chilling, and I just really thought this was very interesting. I mean, obviously we have a lot of focus on suffering and darkness, which definitely fits the setting since, you know, it's never-ending night. We don't really know how long the Earth has been like this. It hasn't been explained yet, but it's interesting that all of the older people are all just very bitter. They have really no happiness left, and it's really a reflection of the world they're living in. It's also only been one volume, but I already really enjoy following our main character. He is one of those characters who, he's not the most talented. He doesn't really have a huge drive, but his heart is in the right place, and I always enjoy following those characters. And I just can't wait to learn more about him and more about this world and the strange situation that he finds himself in. Just a really great first volume. This is one I might just go read on the Shonen Jump app, I think it's on, or the Viz app, whichever one it's on. I might just go read more of this because I don't want to wait for the volumes. This was really, really good. Okay, now I know why I never picked the sit on the floor angle because it's not very comfortable. But next I read Gannibal Volume 1. This, if you couldn't tell, is about cannibals. Basically, we're following a cop. He has moved to this remote village with his family, his wife and his daughter, because the person who was stationed there before has, I'm pretty sure they say that he died. Oh, on the back it says that he mysteriously disappeared. Anyway, so our family has moved in to this remote village. Pretty soon after this family moves in, the body of an old woman is found, and our main character has to go investigate it. And he hears some rumors of possibly people in this village eating other people. So this is another great first volume. I was a little wary because the first chapter felt like it was making the cannibals like too obvious. Like there was no mystery or anything. It seemed like we already knew that there were cannibals in this village. It wasn't maybe there are, maybe there aren't. But we went in a little bit of a different direction, so I definitely enjoyed it. I really like the art. I think it fits this story perfectly. And the setting, this is going to sound very strange, but it kind of reminds me a little bit of Golden Kamuy. Just all the woods, and there's some bears, and the snow. Obviously, tonally, it is nothing like Golden Kamuy, but just the setting reminded me a little bit of it. And, of course, it creeped me out, which all great horror manga do for me. So definitely one that I had a good time with. I'm not sure how they're going to stretch this out for 13 volumes. I did back the Kickstarter, and I got the hardcover box set for the entire series. So I don't think I'm going to buy any more of these volumes because I do have that will be sent to me whenever they make it. So I don't want to spend too much more money on this. I did want to try the first volume though, just so I knew I didn't make a huge mistake, even though I couldn't change the mistake if I did make it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Also, another cool thing, in this first volume, in the back, this looks like just a wall of text, but this is all of the backers for the Kickstarter. So if you want, you can try to find my name. I should have put Tony's manga on there, but I didn't. Anyway, I'm really glad I checked out this first volume. I really enjoy stories about cannibals. That's going to sound strange, but I do. It can be kind of turn your brain off action series, but it can also have some commentary on the human condition. So I'm hoping it's the latter, but either way, I enjoyed this first volume, and I'm looking forward to my box set whenever it gets made and sent to me. After that, I read just the best series ever. This is Night of the Living Cat, Volume 4. If you enjoy cat manga and you haven't read this series, you are doing yourself a huge disservice. I don't see too many people picking it up, which is a shame because this manga is so funny. It makes me laugh out loud several times while reading it, every single volume. But basically, this is a zombie apocalypse story, except for instead of people turning into zombies, they turn into cats. And it's very funny because every single character loves cats, and they don't really want to live in a world without cats. So they're trying to avoid the cats, but also the cats are really cute. So they make weapons that are like cat toys to try to get the cats away from them and distract them because they don't want to hurt the cats, okay? It's just super funny. Just lots of silly situations, lots of movie references which are funny. I will show this one thing in the back because it made me laugh. Here we have Brokeback Mountain. I am so in love with cats. I think that's very funny. The art in the series is way better than it needs to be. This would still be funny if the art wasn't amazing, but it is definitely very good. And I just have a fantastic time with this. Definitely my favorite cat manga. I don't know when the next volume comes out. I'm pretty sure I have it pre-ordered already though. So I can't wait for that. I also have no idea how long the series will go for. I want to say it's still ongoing in Japan. I'm not sure. Either way, this series is definitely highly recommended from me. Another series that was definitely made with me in mind. My name is Shingo. I did read volume 2. I read it during reading sprints again. I was going to try to wait for all the volumes to be released before I read it, but it's very difficult, and I should have, because this volume definitely ends on a cliffhanger, and the next volume doesn't come out until October, which is a very long time to wait, I feel. But this volume, I was a little bit worried. It was getting a little weird with these two kids. It was getting a little strange. It's still kind of strange, but not in the direction I was scared it was going to go in. This volume is definitely more focused on these two kids, not quite as much on the robots, but it's still very interesting to me that this story is being told like from the future, from the perspective of the robot. He is commentating on these things. They've already happened. I still don't know where this name Shingo is coming from. We still haven't heard this name. I don't know where it's coming from, and it's so intriguing to me. But for some reason, I've never really considered Kazuo Umezu's art to be super good. I mean, it's good, but I've never thought of it as, like, incredibly impressive. But in this series, it really shines. Anytime the robot is thinking, it kind of has this like galaxy imagery, and then it slowly turns into like stuff that looks more cybernetic and robot-y, I guess, if that makes sense. I am embarrassing myself with this terminology, but I don't know, just look. I don't know if you can tell, but also when I was reading this, I kept having to go like this and look far away because it just gave a different perspective of looking at the page. Here's another one. I'm not sure how well this comes off on the camera, but it's just, I don't know, I've never really stopped to look at Kazuo Umeza's double page spreads before, but they're really impressive in this series. We're also finally getting hints of a horror manga in this volume. I didn't mind if it was just going to stay this sci-fi story. I thought that was fine, but it did feel a little bit like Kazuo Umeza's horror for a second. So if it goes in that direction, of course, I will not be mad at it. This is definitely my favorite Kazuo Umeza's work, even though it's not completed. I don't think, unless this goes like terribly in the next few volumes, I think I will probably just stick with that opinion. So yeah, really glad I read this volume as well, even though it did end on a cliffhanger. But yeah, I'm glad I'm done filming this update because I'm sick of sitting on the floor. My legs have fallen asleep. So next time I will be sitting somewhere more comfortable to talk about the next few volumes that I will be reading. I got like 5 inches of my hair cut off yesterday, and I feel like you can't even tell on camera at all. But also, I feel like I'm losing my voice. So if my voice sounds a little bit different, I'm sorry. But at this point, I have read 3 more volumes that I want to talk about, starting with A Man and His Cat, Volume 11. So I'm going to warn you, I'm going to sound like such a Grinch, because this is just a cute cat manga, so there is no reason I should be criticizing this as much as I am. But this series is just too long. It has introduced too many characters. Even though the character that they introduce in this volume is interesting, he's the main character's father-in-law, and so there's some backstory with Kanda and his wife and his father-in-law, and it's all fine, but I'm really here for the cute cats, and this series is pretty repetitive in that it introduces some new character who has some issue with cats, whether they don't like cats or they want to help this cat or whatever. And so then Fukumaru, our main cat guy, and our main regular guy, Kanda, they go and help him out. And then through the power of magic and friendship, everybody appreciates the cute cats. Which, again, there's literally nothing wrong with that. At this point, I just am reading it just to read it, and I don't feel like there's some emotional moments in this volume, but I'm not feeling invested in what's happening. And each new volume I read, I feel like the manga has lost more and more of its magic for me. I really think I'm the only one having this problem though, because I looked on Goodreads. Everyone else is still really, really enjoying it, which is fantastic. I do like the color pages in the front. I want to show them to you. Here, look at that one. It's so nice. And I like the little in-between chapters with like the 4-panel comedy manga with Fukumaru being funny because those moments are relatable and funny. But the rest, like, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm just kind of losing my interest in the series, I suppose. Then I read a final volume, and I don't know why it took me this long to read this, but I read I Want to Be Wall Volume 3. This is the final volume, as I said. So usually I don't really give synopses in these videos because I feel like most of the ones I've talked about before, but this one I haven't talked about in a while. So basically, in this manga, this character is aromantic and asexual, and she gets married to this guy who is gay and in love with his best friend, and they get married basically out of convenience to like satisfy their family and society or whatever. So even though it's called a marriage of convenience, in this volume it's pretty obvious that this still isn't convenient for them. Their families, even though they're satisfied with them finally getting married at a late age, because this character is 30, I can't remember how old he is. I want to say he's older than her. But they finally did what society and their families expect from them, but now their family's like, okay, when are you going to have children? They also just kind of had a really brief ceremony marriage, so they didn't really have a big wedding, so the main female character's family wants her to have this big wedding that's more extravagant, and she doesn't want that, and obviously they don't want to have kids. They're not actually attracted to each other at all, even though they're married. And I thought it was interesting that in this volume they actually kind of try to tell their families the situation. Obviously they don't out themselves, but they do say like, hey, we're not interested in having children, we never will, we're not interested in like a really big fancy wedding. And it gets pretty sad because their families really don't understand that at all. I mean, these two are basically living in a queer platonic relationship. Very few people would understand that, and their families really don't. I also really appreciated that even though this manga like made these characters get married to kind of fit into society. They made it clear in this volume that obviously that's not the only way to live your life. Even in Japan, where same-sex marriage is not legalized, you don't have to get married to someone of the opposite sex to live a happy, fulfilling life. That's just what these two have chosen to do. And I really appreciated that because I wasn't really thinking this manga would go that deep. I was thinking it would just be like quiet moments of them living their married life, even though it's not a typical marriage and they're not attracted to each other, obviously, and they love each other as friends, but their relationship is very different from what society would expect. I thought it would just be like them living their lives, but to have it go deeper and explore more of these tougher themes, I guess, I really appreciated. I don't want to say it makes it feel more realistic, but it does make the story feel more fleshed out. There is one moment in this volume that might be a little bit over dramatic for some people, but I was fine with it. I really loved this volume and this entire manga. There are very, very few manga that have aromantic, asexual representation in them. I can only think of 2 that use the word asexual. Actually, maybe 3 or 4, and I feel like I've only seen the word aromantic used maybe once. It's not used in this manga, but it does say that she does not experience romantic attraction, so that's what aromantic means. Anyway, I'm really glad that Yen Press decided to bring this manga over because it has quickly become one of my favorite LGBT manga in my collection, and I'm really glad that I was able to finish it. And lastly, for this section, I read Medalist Volume 3. So before this, I was really on the fence on whether I wanted to continue picking the series up. It was fine, but I wasn't completely hooked. I wasn't completely attached to the characters or invested in them winning, which is pretty important for a sports manga, but I'm very happy to report that this volume was really, really good and definitely solidified my interest in the series. So in this volume, we have a competition that was pretty thrilling, especially in like sports manga where you're following just one character rather than a team. I really struggle with the competition part, but I really did like the competition in this volume. I love all the rival characters. I don't know how much we're going to see them in future volumes, but I do really love each and every one of them. Also, I'm not sure if I'm imagining it or I'm just getting used to it, but I feel like the art really improved in this volume. It doesn't look that different, but there weren't any moments where I was like, oh, the art doesn't look very good in that panel in this volume, whereas in the first 2, I did feel that way sometimes. In addition to the competition being very exciting, like many other sports manga, this volume starts to tackle the idea of injuries, and for some reason in this manga, it hits me a lot harder than in other sports manga, and I think it's because the characters in here are so young. They face a lot of pressure to succeed at a very young age, and some of these girls are just over practicing and hurting themselves. There's even a little mention of disordered eating, and I wonder if there's going to be more of that in the future. It was just a little tiny moment, but just be aware of that. There's also a time skip in this volume, which I was pretty surprised by, but by the end of the volume, I was very interested in the direction we're taking now. So this definitely solidified my choice to keep collecting this manga physically, and I'm really glad I gave it a try. Alright, so that's it for now. I will be back with another update when I have read some more volumes. Alright, so I wanted to get this video up last weekend. I had it all planned out, but after that last clip, my voice got really bad. So I still think it sounds kind of weird. Maybe it doesn't come across on camera, but it's a lot better than it was. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish talking about the last 3 volumes I read for this video. Firstly, we have God Bless the Mistaken, Volume 2. So at the end of Volume 1, I was left with a lot of questions that I was sure the manga was eventually going to answer. And in this volume, we definitely do get some answers, but not in the way I was expecting at all. This was a very surprising volume. I was a little bit worried because the first half of this volume was definitely still just the episodic, exploring these weird bugs. I honestly think if it had continued that episodic type thing, I probably would have dropped it after this first volume, even though it's only going to be a 4-volume series. So it's really good that it added that new aspect to it. I'm trying to be very vague. We definitely don't have all the answers yet, though. In fact, we definitely have more questions now. So I'm very interested in continuing the series. Again, since it's only going to be 2 more volumes after this, I might just wait until all the volumes are out, or the last 2 volumes are out, to finish it. But I will be finishing the series for sure. On the other hand, I also read Tsugumi Project, Volume 2 and Volume 3, and this is a series I'm going to be dropping. It's a post-apocalyptic series with monsters, so I feel like I should really enjoy this, but there's just something that's keeping me from being invested. It looks really cool. I really love the post-apocalyptic setting, and I think the art is amazing and really fits that setting, but the actual story I simply don't care about. There's even a cliffhanger at the end of this volume, and I still don't care to know what happens after this. and the characters are whatever. The actual storyline of trying to find this weapon, I don't care. I keep expecting there to be like this deeper social commentary that's present in a lot of post-apocalyptic fiction, and there's definitely some commentary on nuclear warfare and like child soldiers, but it's really just fighting cool monsters and looking at the cool art and just a lot of action, which is fine. It's fun, but I guess I'm just looking for something more meaningful. The series is also on the shorter side. It's only going to be 7 volumes, but I'm almost halfway through it and I just don't care to read anymore, so I'm not going to. I was going to read the first volume of Search and Destroy for this video and let you know my first impressions of the series, but since it's based on Dororo and I haven't yet read Dororo, I think I want to read that and then read this. This is going to be another shorter series, only 3 volumes, just like the original Dororo manga. So maybe I'll just wait until all the volumes are out and then read Dororo and then read this. So here are all 10 volumes that I read in this video. Almost everything was a success, I would say. I read some really interesting new series, some pretty good final volumes, and then everything in between. If you've read any of these volumes, please let me know your thoughts on them down below. I'd love to hear from you. But that's going to be it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!